Welcome back to the channel, folks, and in case you couldn't tell, particularly by my hair, I wasn't planning on making a video today, but we have got some unfortunate news to talk about, actually, whilst I'm at it. There you go. Much better. Right, let's talk about this news then. Stamp Fairtex is unfortunately injured and out of her two fights. Of course, she was double booked to headline 1167 and 1168, and she has got a knee injury that is going to force her out of both of those fights. The news was reported by MMA Fighting. They spoke to Chatri Sichitong on Monday, I assume, to preview some of these events and things like that. Where he revealed that Stamp is going to be out of both of those fights. Those two fights in question are, of course, on June 7th. She was set to headline the Impact Arena in Bangkok against Denice Zamboanga in a Atomweight title defense. Her first, obviously, Atomweight title defense since winning the belt, winning the vacant belt, I should say, in her fight with Ham Seo Hee at One Fight Night 14 in September. The fight was, of course, pushed back from March. It was supposed to go down in Qatar at 1166. So it's pushed back to June 7th. If you listen along to the One on SK podcast that I do with Nick Atkin on a Wednesday, we've spoken a lot about that card when it was announced that it was going to be a difficult time zone for the fans over there and that it was going to be a tough sell. And of course, Stamp being on the card is a big part of why it was happening. You know, I think that obviously that card looks fantastic either way. There's some great fights on there. Whether they'll replace the main event, I think probably not. I would imagine that Talonchai will be your new main event. That is, of course, the rematch with Joe Natwart for the one featherweight Muay Thai World Championship. But Stamp was a big reason for that. It very much felt like, okay, this is like her homecoming fight as the champion. You know, what a moment for her, taking on a former sparring partner who she is very good friends with. You know, there's plenty of narratives there, and obviously that fight is no longer happening. And then obviously the one that is a little bit further away in the future at the moment, which is a really big, really big loss, in my opinion. That is the main event of 1168, which is when the promotion returns to the United States in Denver at the Ball Arena. And you had Stamp going up a weight class to challenge Zhongjing Nan for the strawweight title. You know, obviously, if Stamp had beaten Denice, she would have had the opportunity to become a two-weight world champion, which she hasn't done before. She is a three-sport world champion, not simultaneously, but at different points in her career, having previously held the kickboxing and Muay Thai belts in one. But they were all at atomweight, so I was excited to see, you know, what she could do going up a weight class to challenge Zhong. But we're not going to get that one either. I would imagine that there will be a replacement for 1168. We've got a couple of months still to go, and you definitely want. I think that Haggerty and Superlek is still a very good main event. Of course, you know that is the one that people were the most excited about. It's the best fight on that card currently. It's one of the best fights the One Championship could possibly make right now. So I think it is a fitting main event. I just don't know, does it grab the US audience as much as Stamp would have? I don't think so, personally. I think that Stamp translates very well over to the US crowd. So having her main event that show, especially after the reaction she got at One Fight Night 10 last year, I think that made a lot of sense, Stamp headlining that show. And obviously that is no longer going to happen. I get concerned with double booking. It's not something I like. It just makes me anxious. Anything can happen in this sport, and One Championship have done a lot of double booking as of late. Of course, this Thailand card, the Impact Arena card, 1167. You've got several people on there that are double booked. You've got Stamp, of course. You also have Liam Harrison is booked to return against Katsuki Kitano on that card, and he is booked for Denver against Sexan. You also have Rod Tang, isn't technically double booked. He's fighting Dennis Puric on June 7th, but we realistically know that he's probably going to be fighting Takeru in, I can't remember what month it is. Is it October or end of September? The Japan card is being targeted for, so that's kind of a double booking, but you know, not officially. You of course also have Superlek, is potentially in the main event of 1168 now, and he has just had another fight announced that is coming up before that at One Friday Fights, where he takes on Contini. So it concerns me. It worries me, especially when like in Superlex case, that is not an easy fight by any means necessary. Of course, Superlex is fantastic, but now you potentially got a spot where one of your top two fights has already fallen off the card for 168, and now you have the other guy in one of the other top two fights is having a fight before then. And I know that September isn't exactly just right around the corner, but it is definitely in that time frame where booking another fight in between gets a little bit too sketchy for me. These US cards are a big deal for one championship, and they want to put their best foot forward over in the States. So yeah, it concerns me a little bit, I'll be honest. And this isn't me hitting one championship with a "I told you so," about this double booking thing. I personally am not a fan of it. I kind of understand why they did it, especially in the case of Stamp. You want her headlining that show in Thailand, but of course you want her in Denver again after the reaction she got last year in May. So I get it, and it's incredibly unfortunate. Let's take a look actually at the article written by Mr. Damon Martin from MMA Fighting. Just confirming the news there. But just so we get a little bit of specifics. So this is what Chattery said right here. He said, "It's a sad thing. One of her final sparring sessions prepping for the big event in a couple of weeks, she blew out her knee. 80% of her meniscus was torn off her knee. That's brutal. And it was a nasty takedown where her leg got caught, her knee buckled. She just went for surgery, very successful surgery on Sunday. It's possible that she could make a comeback sooner than expected, but there's no chance of Stamp fights in June or September." This is what Chattery said. He said, "I've spoken to the Fairtex team. Looks like it's going to be 6 months, but I really don't know. I haven't talked to the doctor. Let's see what happens." It's kind of sad, but at the same time, Atlanta is 6 months away, so who knows? Stamp is a super athlete. You never know. Of course, what Chattery is speaking about there is one. I suppose it will be 170 because you would imagine 169 will be Japan. The One Championship have two shows booked in America. You of course have the Denver card and the Atlanta card, and you would imagine that they will want Stamp on both if they could have. Now you potentially have a scenario where you might not get Stamp on either, and that's going to get interesting for who main events that card, for who takes a prominent spot on that card. I think that maybe Christian Lee should be in consideration. I don't know what his plans are for when he wants to return, but I definitely think that Christian Lee should fight in the US next time out. And he's a two-weight world champion, so in terms of finding a main event fight or even a co-main event fight for him, that's not hard. He's a champion. Give him a title defense, and that works perfectly. So I think that would generate a decent amount of interest personally. Another quote, couple of quotes here from Chattery. "These things happen." Sit Yutong said, "The most important thing right now is for Stamp to rest and recover and rehab her knee so she's back, and hopefully she's back in several months, even potentially for our Atlanta show, and there's more shows in the States for next year." So I'm pretty relaxed about that from a timing perspective, and plus we have such a stacked card. We haven't even announced our card, but we have such a stacked card for Denver. 100% the event is going to sell out with zero marketing. We are more than half sold out, which is mind-boggling, I imagine that's meant to be. It's a 20,000 seat arena where world champion Denver Nuggets play. It's a full-blown NBA stadium. We've done zero marketing. All we've done is announce that we're coming and put a ticket link up and a couple of fights, and it's more than half sold out already. So I think 4 months ago, we'll probably sell out several weeks ago, just like we did for our last Denver event. We're very excited. And I'm excited too. But that doesn't change the fact that this is incredibly disappointing news. I'm sure that this Denver card will be fine. Like Chattery said, it's probably going to sell out regardless, plenty of weeks ahead of the event. And yeah, that seems about right. And I don't know whether it's going to get the same kind of huge traction without someone like Stamp or a Rodtang even at the top of card. Obviously, last year we had Demetrius Johnson, who is going to get a decent amount of attention from US fans, at least from the MMA media, for sure. Will they still get that without Stamp? I still think they will, because it's only the second US event, right? So it's still a big thing that's worth covering because it's like One Championship are back, and clearly they want to keep coming back and things like that. So, you know, and you can kind of compare the progression from last year's event to this one. So I still think that this event will do very well. Will it do as well without Stamp? No, not in my opinion. And again, I'm not talking about ticket sales. Ticket sales will do fantastic. I'm sure that there will be coverage from a lot of mainstream, well, I say mainstream MMA outlets over in the US, or potentially some sporting outlets too. I just don't know whether it'll get the same kind of social media traction, things like that, without Stamp. But you never know. I could be wrong. But still, incredibly disappointing news. Of course, wish nothing but the best for Stamp and her team on the recovery. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be a speedy one, and potentially she can still feature on that Atlanta card. It'll be a push, but yeah, we will see what happens. I imagine I will be jumping on the One on SK podcast tomorrow with Mr. Nick Atkin, where I believe he has a few guests lined up. So come over to the Sportskeeda MMA Originals YouTube channel and check us out for that. We will be going live around midday in the UK. I'm not sure what that evens out. I believe it's like evening time for Nick, and he's in Hong Kong. So just keep an eye on our social medias and keep an eye on the Sportskeeda MMA Originals YouTube channel. So I will see some of you then. And if not, I'll catch you next time we put up a video on this channel, I guess. Until then, have a good one.